Welcome to the Rebel Lawson Show, where we cut through the world's BS with precision of a dodgeball to the face. If you're not a fan of unfiltered, uncensored truth bombs, well, stick around anyway. You might just catch one and learn something. Hey, today we're going to be talking about my take and my rant on all the social media BS that's going on right now with the content creators, influencers, or whatever. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Rebel. Let's get this shit show started. And now let's give a big round of applause to our announcer, Iggy, as he tells us what the show is all about.
Thanks, Rebel. All right, listen up, you beautiful bastards. This is Iggy, your announcer, and you just stumbled across the rudest show on the net. Now, this ain't your grandma's podcast. So if you're looking for the politically correct fairy tales that we all have been force-fed, you better change the channel right now, cause we're about to get real. So, buckle up, Buttercup. We're about to take off on a no-holds-barred journey through the twisted landscape of his mind. It's gonna be one hell of a ride, and I promise you'll never see things the same way again. Remember, folks, I'm just the messenger. Blame the voices. Now, let's get this shit show started. Let's bring out the ringmaster himself, as the voices in his head are dying to get out. Smoke him if you got them.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rebel has entered the studio.
Crazy Thuggers, welcome to the first episode of the Rebel Lawson Show. I've been trying so hard to get episodes out, been trying to get the time. I just started a new job. It's crazy. I've got enough content to off of this new job to make 10 probably new episodes. But right now, we're going to be talking about the influence market. I don't know if you've opened up like Twitter here recently, but if you have the Twitter algorithm to where X, I still can't get over calling it X, even though it's been that way for over a year now. But the idea of, so with the algorithm, if you follow a lot of people, certain algorithms, everybody knows how an algorithm works. If you do something consistently, the computer program picks up on it, and that's what you see. So if you are a streamer, if you're a podcaster, if you're a political advocate, whatever, whatever you click on the most, whatever you watch the most on X, TikTok, and all that, that's what you're going to see the most of. And it's a real good advertising ploy. Advertisers have been doing that for years. You watch TV, they get your attention through that and everything else. But the streamer algorithm is what we're going to be talking about today. And if you opened up X and you've seen all of the crazy shit going on with Twitch, you already know about all the crazy stuff that goes on with Kick. But Twitch has been jumping back into the limelight here in the last few months anyways, about all of the crap that's been going on their channels. We already know the streaming world is not the same as it was 13 years ago when all this started. And yes, only 13 years. It's only been 13 years since Twitch and YouTube joined, the live streaming or the video processing or whatever you want to call it world. 13 years, that's not very long. It seems like it is, but see, I put streamers into like dogs. Dog years are like 7 years to every 1 year. Well, I kind of give streamers, they get 3 years to every 1 year that they're in the industry. So if you've been in the industry for 7 years, you've been in it for 21 years is what it kind of feels like because of all the time and effort that you put into it. And getting to that point to where you're putting that much time, when you're looking at it like that, you're putting that much time, and it feels like you're taking about 21 years out of your life to try to make it big. The estimated today of live streamers across all platforms is about 7 million streamers. 7 million people out of the world are streaming, trying to make their niche in the world, trying to make it big, trying to make that bank, and only about 800,000 of them actually make 50,000 a year. It's only 12%. That's crazy. Out of 7 million, only 12% actually make it. That leaves about one, and that's only at 50,000. I mean, some areas you can't even, 50,000 is still poverty level at some areas. I mean, it's manageable. I mean, to where you can, it's $50,000 to be able to stay home, sit behind these computer screens, sit behind the microphones, the cameras, and all that. I mean, as long as you don't have like exorbitant, taste and want all the fancy bells and whistles, you could probably make it pretty good on $50,000 if you knew how to manage your money. But see, a lot of these streamers are like kids, younger generation that really have never been taught how to manage money. So you can see it when they go out and spend $7,000 on a computer system, $5,000 on a camera system. If you're a streamer and you're spending that much money, you need to be making at least 100K a year. I mean, those are 100K type exuberant accessories. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have some things about my previous job. I was making about 100K a year. So I was able to, elaborate, buy cameras, buy monitors, but that's a very small percentage. Now, I didn't make that off of live streaming. I made that off of working my 10, 15 hours a day at my job and then coming home and putting another 6, 7 hours in on trying to live stream and trying to grab people's attention. It's not as easy as everybody thinks. And like I said, with only 12% making it at 50K out of 7 million, there's a problem there. There's an addiction, and it becomes an addiction. But like I said, if you guys want to learn about all that, just go to YouTube and stuff like that. You can find everything about that on YouTube. It's been around for years. Everybody talks about their negative, their positive, how to be the best streamer, how to be the worst streamer, what things not to do, what things to do. It's plastered. All you got to do is Google how to be a streamer, and you'll get billions of freaking videos on what to do, what not to do. So I'm not going to go into that. That was just my highlight on it. But enough about that. But let's get into the current drama that's circling the net. I mean, it's like a vulture over roadkill, if you want to think about it. I mean, if you've opened X in the last 24 hours on the streamer algorithm, there's a mob out there. Cancel culture has been around for years. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just got invented in the last few years. No, cancel culture has been around for years. We've always been trying to cancel people because we always think that we're better than everybody else. And it's just that. I mean, that's just, nobody can be happy. Nobody can be happy for somebody else's success because we're always dreaming about that success. We're always wanting bigger and better things, for ourselves because we are selfish. I mean, that's just 100%. Human nature is selfish. It doesn't matter what generation, what ethnicity, what culture or whatever. There's still a little hint of selfishness in there. And so, when we start to break down other people's success on the internet, for them making it, you got people like Nick Merckx, you got people like Doc, you got people like, Shroud, all of them, everybody, all those negative aspects that come across them is because it's jealousy and selfishness because they're not where they want to be. And it has nothing to do with like working harder, doing anything else. They've coined the market. Those people have coined the market. So it's harder to get into that space. You're never going to be the next ninja. You're never going to be, Ninja's Ninja. Nick Merckx is Nick Merckx. Shroud is Shroud. Tim the Tap Man is Tim the Tap Man. I mean, those are just some of the OG streamers that are still around. Even Ninja's been struggling here lately. If you haven't been watching, some of his stuff, he's getting older. He's getting up there in age. He's not the big Fortnite player that he used to be anymore. I mean, he's still good, but there's other people coming in, the younger generations coming up, Gen Z and the younger millennials, Ninja's part of my time, not, I guess. Yeah. I mean, be my time. The lower half of Gen X and the older half of the millennials is what Ninja would be. But so, like I said, live streaming, it's just crazy. But now you have in the last 24 hours, 48 hours that I've seen on X, there's been a lot of crap going on with, streamers getting really, really heavy into the political advocatism. They're advocating for, the whole deal with Israel, the whole deal with, Iran and all of that stuff. Hey, I'm not going to say nothing. Your beliefs are your beliefs. You want to believe what you want to believe. That's it's why we here in America are still a free country. But there's a certain thing called free speech that people tend to forget, that there's a fine line of dragging across that line into what is classified as hate speech. And it's just not very it's not very good for these platforms to allow that fine line, that thread, to be busted. And that's what they're doing. They're allowing people like Aiden Ross, they're allowing people like Sneeko, they're allowing people like this Frogan. Who in the hell Frogan? I mean, come on. Did these people get stoned one night and sit there and say, hey, I'm gonna name myself Rogan, I'm gonna name myself, Sneeko? I don't know. But hey, it is theirs. I mean, it's their brand. I mean, I'm sure they probably thought the same thing with Nike and Adidas and all that. They probably thought they went out and got stoned. But the whole idea that these people, and I'm not dodging on their names, I mean, they're kind of funny, but I'm not, this isn't what this is about. This is all about the fact of the matter that some of the stuff that they talk about, due to their fan base and due to the ability of people of a younger, more influential mindset, grabbing onto these platforms as a way of getting away from, the teenage life. I don't know, being a teenager is pretty damn hard. So if you're trying to find something to break the norm, or you find these creators that resonate with you as a, something going on in your life that gives you joy, I mean, great. You also got to realize that some of these people have been in the business for a little while now. They know what attracts, how to get your attention, how to create a atmosphere that just brings them back. I mean, it's just like Sneeko. Let's take Sneeko for example. He started streaming on YouTube, and I think in 2015 he actually blew up with some of his commentary and stuff like that. Which some of his stuff, I mean, I have to say it's pretty interesting, some of the things that he does. I mean, some of the places that he visits, and he gives a whole new light on actually being a content creator when it comes to letting everybody in on his life experiences and stuff like that. But here recently, it seems like now, like I said, with the whole thing, ever since the whole catastrophe with the October 7th thing with Israel and Iran and Hamas and all that crap, I mean, it seems like all these creators are starting to get more political when they don't probably fully understand everything that they're getting into. They're just following a trend. I mean, it's just it. I mean, that is it. As a content creator, you follow trends. And right now, what is trending is all of the political chaos, all of the turmoil going on overseas with Iran, with Israel, with Hamas, with Ukraine, with Russia. I mean, that's what's trending. That is the trend today. And it will be until after, the next few days. We've got what, 14, 13 days or something like that, 14 days before we figure out what's going to happen for the rest of the next 4 years. I mean, and then it's still going to continue on into, probably the first few months into the next year, into 2025. And then there'll be a new trend. I mean, we already saw it with, a lot of trends that happen, like with the cancellation with some of the businesses for the LGBTQ stuff and everything else. I mean, that's all a trend. It's all what sells on the internet. It's in the one thing that sells, the biggest thing that sells in life in general is negativity, you know, and you really can't blame any one person because negative, the negative aspects of what attracts us to negativity has been around since our ancestors. And I'm not talking about the grandma and grandpas that are sitting back in a rocking chair and telling you about old war stories and telling what they did no, those, I'm not talking about those ancestors. I'm talking way back when the beginning of the wheel, the invention of fire. I'm talking about the cavemen, because they had to, they had to be, they had to be a step ahead of all of the negative aspects of living back then. You had saber-toothed tigers, you had things, everybody was out to kill everybody. I mean, that was just it. That was the thing back then. It was live or die. That was the only thing going for them back then. So the idea of trying to find happiness wasn't a thing, so they always had to be on the negative outlook. They always had to look for the negative aspects of things just so they could survive. So with that, I mean, if you want to get technical with it, I mean, the psychological term, it's not really fancy. It's just called negativity bias. I mean, the basic definition is it's a cognitive tendency where negative experiences, thoughts, and informations have a strong impact on our psychological state than positive or neutral ones of an equal intensity. I mean, that's basically it. It's nothing fancy, but it controls our life. Negativity controls our life. So when we see things like all the stuff on TV, on the news, I mean, the news knows this. I mean, I'm sure they're probably taught this in news reporter school or whatever the hell it's called. But I found it out. I've been noticing, I found this out probably, I always had an idea, but, I really found out more just in the last few years that negativity sells. Negativity grabs our attention. Being negative to one another creates a more hostile environment, but it also creates a more communicative experience because the more you hate somebody, the more you're going to talk about them or talk to them. I mean, it's just it. It's the reason why I sit there and say it's just like, if you hate me, you talk about me. That just means I'm on your mind. My name is in your headspace. And that's probably, in order to make it big, that's where you need to be. I mean, why do you think like all these celebrities and everything else are jumping on the political bandwagon? Because right now, if they, you see people like Robert De Niro, you see people like, who was the other one that just came on? I can't remember right now, but all these celebrities that are jumping on the political bandwagon to support Harris, they know that draws out the negativity, so that they're going to remember them more than the positive stuff. I mean, we remember negative stuff a hell of a lot more than we do positive. And it's crazy. It's sad, but it's true. So with that, I mean, like I said, you've got people like Sneeko, you got people like, Hassan Piker has always been, he was brought up in that, his dad, the whole thing with the Turks and everything else. I mean, or his uncle, not his dad. Sorry, his uncle. What was it? Sevic, or I can't even remember what his name is. But then you got people like Destiny, you know, they know how to grab attention. They know what people want to listen to. They understand that negativity sells. And I mean, you've even got you got some of these streamers out there that take it to the extreme. They get really hateful. Now, when you start getting hateful towards people and towards ideas and ideologies and stuff like that, that's where people start to tend to back away. Listening to the negativity of something, your negative opinion about what's going on in the world, that's different because there's a lot of people that do resonate with that. They resonate with the idea of what is going on is negative. They resonate with the idea what is going on with life in general. But when you start hating, that's when you're crossing the line. When you start wishing ill will, trying to be nice, when you start wishing ill will on people or on ideologies or people that believe in ideologies, then that's when you're crossing the line into people are going to start backing away and things are going to start taking place. I mean, you can even get in trouble. I mean, you can literally go to prison for talking way too much about hate on somebody or something. I mean, hell, they've even got a law out there now in some states that if you post a sexual explicit video online as a revenge to some of like an ex, you can go to jail for that. It's sounds crazy, but I mean, it's really not because it keeps that fine line in check when you have things like that. So when you have these streamers like Sneeko, like Hassan, like Frogan, and everything else jumping over that line and telling people, that, like Frogan, the one thing I seen on her was she was doing a sub goal. Can't remember what the goal was, but they were going to do a 9/11 baking stream to where they were going to build the Twin Towers and then they were going to reenact what happened that day. And if you guys don't know who Frogan is, she's like half white, half Palestinian. And supposedly, neither one of her parents are like really into either culture, but supposedly she's like this big expert on, I can't remember what it was, life something. I don't even know what it's called, but she's one of these self-proclaimed experts. Just like all the rest of them, they all become self-proclaimed expert. I don't claim to be anything. I just tell you what is in my head. Like like Iggy said in the beginning, the voices in my head have finally started coming out. and it's not a crazy voice. It's not like Son of Sam to where I heard the dog sitting there telling me to do all this, or I heard this, but listening to these streamers and taking course on what they say. There's a very small percentage of them, but you got to realize these content creators have a lot of young, influential people that are wanting to find a home mentally to resonate with. That's one thing I always tell about content creators. You have to watch what you say, who you say it to, and everything else, because you have a lot of influential people that stand on your every whim and stand on what you say. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but it all comes down to the same thing. Look at Taylor Swift and the Swifties. You remember back a few years ago when she was starting to make it big and her producer or her manager, old manager at the time, took her master recordings and sold them. And she was pissed because she didn't get to be able to be the first to, purchase them, you have the option to purchase them. So she went out on social media, the big soapbox of the world, and she got her Swifties so pissed off because of the way that she didn't come out and sit there and say, hey, go do this, but because they were so dedicated to her, they were so influenced by her, they were brainwashed by her, they literally started to make death threats and other kind of threats to him and his family, to the point to where he literally had to go into hiding for a little bit. So I mean, when you think about influence and you think about the influences that you watch, it's fucking nuts, dude. I mean, I personally do not have anybody that would like influence me into doing anything that I didn't want to do. I mean, I can't even remember back when I was a kid, from what I don't even think there was like a TV show or, I mean, yeah, I mean, you always wanted to be cowboys or you wanted to be Indians or you wanted to be Batman or you wanted to be Robin, whatever, but was there a time and a place it's like, oh, I wished I could be that super spy villain or whatever? Yeah. I mean, but do I? No. It's just a little fantasy that, helps me break the monotony of life, but it's when people cross that line and bring that monotony of life, that fantasy into reality. I remember back in the day when I was a kid, Dungeons and Dragons was like a big thing. It was back before it was like a video game and everything else. It was a board game. You stayed up all night long, all weekend long, playing campaigns, trying to beat, the dungeon masters, stuff like that. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, if you think about it, it was a really critical type game because you had the dungeon master, especially if you were a dungeon master, man, you had to be smart. You had to come up with your own battle plans. I mean, people would stay up weeks to write campaigns because back then you had to write your own campaigns. You had to create your own characters. I mean, like you did all this stuff with the dice to create your characters. Like mine was a half gnome, half elf. So, he was a little short dude with gray beard, had the freaking battle axe and everything else, and he was strong. That was his thing. He was the one that went through and busted doors open. So, that was my time at Dungeons and Dragons. But like I said, you have those people that, back in the day, the parents were blaming Dungeons and Dragons for like influencing certain kids to go out and actually live and do this stuff in reality, which there was a lot of craziness back then. And I mean, this isn't nothing new. I mean, it's been around forever. I mean, anytime something influences us, if we don't have that self-control switch, it goes off. But that's all another different story because that all has to do with nature versus nurture type thing. The parents teaching your kids on what not to do and how to do it right, and making a relationship. It's a whole different story. But so now coming back to what we're talking about today with what we're seeing with Sneeko and Frogan and Destiny and Aiden Ross. I mean, Aiden Ross is kind of toned down a little bit. I mean, you even have people like Kaya Sanat. I mean, he's actually, I've seen him. He's actually breaking out into some things that I said that he probably should because of his talent structure. He's actually getting into commercials and everything else. So he's a positive influence, I would say. I mean, he's doing things for him. He knows the opportunities, he knows the business, and he knows how to run the business. But then you got these other people like I said, Frogan and Destiny and all of them. Destiny just rumbles at the mouth. I mean, that's all he is. I mean, you got to take him just with a grain of salt and just kind of turn around and walk away with him. He's just very passionate about what he talks about. I understand that. I can relate to that. But these other ones like Aiden, these kids that basically come into all this money and they think they just own the world because they come into this money, not realizing what the real world is all about. When the money runs out, they're going to get a big awakening because sooner or later, I mean, the money always runs out. It always does. Money doesn't stick around forever. And you got to think about it. You can't take it with it when you go. A lot of people try, but you can't take it with you when you go. So Aiden, like I said, he's toned his tune down a little bit, with all of his bands that he's got on all the platforms over the years. I mean, he's still got a little bit of, he's naive. He's still naive. And I think he's growing up a little bit, but I think he's more naive now than what some of his age probably should be. But that's just because he's been stuck behind a camera, sucked into these monitors, sucked into the dopamine effect of everybody loving him for a why, I don't know. Because he really doesn't have content. He just talks a lot, talks shit a lot, but he's got the negative aspect. He relies on negativity to bring everybody in. Like I said, going back, we love negative aspects of things. Oh, then you got, see who's that? And then you got Sneeko. Sneeko just got banned on all fucking platforms. It's just like somebody posted on Twitter. It's like, you've really got to do something really stupid to be banned on Twitch. And the dude just got a big ass contract on Kick. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Kick, not Twitch. Twitch, you can get banned with a sneeze and you say something behind the sneeze. But on Kick, they're the ones that tread on that fine line. Kick really does tread on that fine line. And they've broken the fine line a couple of times with a few people, and the community has called them out. And I've kind of noticed they're starting to wake up and realize that their 200,000 viewers a day are not going to pay the bills, considering probably 80% of that 200,000 is probably people that stream on the platform. And they're never going to get advertising. They're never going to get people like Nike. They're never going to get people like McDonald's. They're never going to get people like Pepsi or anything like that to advertise with them as long as they keep up. That's just it. You're not going to do that. That's the reason why Twitch went through that whole advertising campaign a few years ago about brand awareness and brand everything. What was it called? God, I can't think about it. But it was where they checked the streams to see if what advertisers to place on those streams. So if you had negative content to the point to where it was breaking those fine lines of communication, or of not communication, but of what was allowed, like if you free speech, but like I said, free speech, hate speech, there's a big difference, and it's a fine line between that big difference. But and that's what it is now with Kick. They're not going to get those advertisers because of the fact of the matter, they can't clean their platform up. They've been live for 2 years, fully live for 2 years, and they still cannot clean their platform up. Because you know why? Because it's making Eddie and all of them money. So why clean it up when they can't be at fault? They can't be sued to the point because of, the U.S. laws that we have here, that platforms are not responsible for their creators' attitude, their creators' content. Now the creator's responsible, but the platforms aren't. Which I think last year somebody tried to change that in Congress, and hopefully maybe that will, I think it was like Section 230, I think is what it was. I think they're trying to change that. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to change that and make these platforms responsible for their content creators. But until then, I hate to say it. I really don't like Twitch, but the only reason why people don't like Twitch is because they don't pay, 50%. But you got to think about it. You're getting 50%. Is it a small amount? Yes. But you got to realize it's a streaming platform. These platforms are a service, not a necessity. Yeah, they're a necessity if you want to live stream, but they don't work for you. You are a subcontractor that is working for them to make them money. Plain and simple. You are working for them as a subcontractor to make the platforms money, and that's all they care about. When people will wake up and realize that is all they care about, they can either quit or they can just do what they do, try to get more people coming in, trying to get the more subs and everything else. Some of these people, like that top 1% that are on Twitch that are making $100,000 a year off of people subbing to them, not on top, and also on top of certain exclusive contracts that these creators have. The reason why these platforms sign exclusive, Twitch, anyways, the reason why Twitch and YouTube sign or have exclusive contracts with creators is because they are bringing in the viewers to watch the ads, to pay for stuff on the ads, to it's a ad game. Kick hasn't figured that out yet. Kick's like doubling in. They're taking money out of stake.com, which is basically who owns Kick. They're taking money from that platform to pay all these streamers, because the stream Kick is not making, there ain't no fucking way Kick is making money. They have nothing to make money with other than 1% of revenue from the streamers. I mean, yeah, it's great to get, it's like, I think for subs, you get like 100% of your subs and stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy, Hopefully they wake up and realize that they got to clean their shit up in order to make anything out of the platform and to make it even better. But like I said, in the last 2 years, they've been pretty steady around 200,000 viewers per day, where Kick is running anywhere from 2 to 3 million a day. So it just goes to say, I mean, sooner or later, they're gonna, and that's what's scary right now, because it's 2 years in and they're not making any improvements. And Kick will die out if they do not make any improvements. And now you're going to have exactly what happened to Mixer. You're going to have all these content creators that dumped everything they had on Twitch, shut down their channels. There's people that even shut down their channels, gave up their sub button to go stream on Kick because it paid more. But what happens when that fails, And with the streamers they have on there now, which I'm glad they finally, they need to permanently ban Sneeko. They need to those type of streamers either need to clean their act up and get back over on that fine line. And I'm all about talking about what you want to talk about. But you got to be careful about how you say it. I mean, Sneeko got banned from what I've seen. Sneeko got banned from this whole thing. What is that stupid thing, that monkey app or whatever, Omegula? Who fucking cares? Why do you guys watch that shit? I mean, you can see it for yourself. All you got to do is sign into it and watch it yourself. Why would somebody want to use that as content? It cracks me up that people watch videos live stream for content. I can see doing it in Discord, have a movie night, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But running your time up and things like that just to do nothing. I mean, you're a content creator. You're supposed to create content. That means go out and do something. Go out and film yourself fishing. Go out and film yourself working on a car. That's content. People do love to see that kind of shit. They love IRL shit. But when you got people like I said, going back to Sneeko, going back to Frogan and everything else, they've crossing that fine line about hate speech. And they sit there and cry. Oh, I don't know why I got banned. Yeah, you do. You knew you were going to get banned. You're pushing the limits on getting banned. Everybody does it. I've seen all these creators out here. They push the limits because they want to see how far they can get away. They're like a little kid growing up. Remember, as a kid growing up, you always pushed your parents to the point of getting in trouble so you knew how far you could get. It's exactly what they're doing. They have no common sense as an adult, and they're not using their brains to sit there and say, okay, I'm making, let's say they're making $2,000 a month, and then they get banned. They rely on that $2,000 a month from the platform they're streaming on to pay their bills, to pay their rent, to pay their, their dog food, their cat foods, their food in their stomach. Keep the lights on, keep the internet on. But when you lose that, because when you get banned on these platforms, you lose your revenue stream. They cut your revenue stream. People just don't make sense. It does not make sense. But like I said, this isn't like a bandwagon type thing to sit there and say don't stream. I'm just saying look at what you're doing and look at all the others. I mean, we all know negativity bias is where it's at. That's how things get sold. That's how things, you know, how we buy shit, how influencers influence us to do things, you know. I don't know. It's just crazy time in life, and I really wish these platforms would worry about cleaning their act up. I mean, Kick especially. Kick needs to clean up, get advertisers in there. They get advertisers in there. They'd be able to pay their streamers. They'd be able to do what they wanted to do with their KCIP a lot easier if they had ad revenue coming through. You know, right now there's no advertisers that want to look at them. I mean, hell, I mean, even Twitch went through that for a while. They were losing advertisers because of their content they were sharing. Now, is it Dan Clancy's fault for allowing these on here? Uh, I don't know. I don't know so much if it's Dan Clancy's fault per se. He is responsible because he is the CEO. He is the what do you want to call it? The patsy of the company, you know, but he does have people underneath him. I think it's, what is it, the security and whatever team, you know, they're supposed to be the ones that take care of this. But then you got kids in there that they bend down to some of these bigger streamers and allow them to do things. So I mean, we seen that over the time. I mean, when he cleaned house and got rid of a bunch of people, and Amazon got rid of a bunch of people because of what was going on inside the corporate ladder of things, they were realizing there was a lot of people being biased against each other and everything else, and taking favoritisms and allowing certain things to happen. I mean, that happens in every company, but you know, safety, what is that called? Safety and whatever, safety and security team or whatever. They're the ones that need to be, they need to be adults. They need to know, they need to have adults in there that actually understand and cannot be influenced and do the job they're paid to do and follow the TOS. I mean, all these platforms need to follow TOS. I mean, Kick doesn't even follow their TOS. I mean, the Monkey app is in their TOS. Omegula, Monkey, all that is in their TOS that is not supposed to be streamed on their platform, but yet they allow it to happen. So that's what I'm saying. I really think these platforms should have some accountability, but legally, they have zero accountability. They are not responsible for anything that their content creators do because they're not a depository of videos. They are a platform. That's how it's those two little words that determine their culpability of getting in trouble. Is either they're a depository of video, or a holder of video, or they're a platform. See, YouTube is a holder of video, so they get in trouble for stuff. That's the reason why their rules and regulations are so strict. They can literally be sued for allowing certain shit to happen. But Twitch, Kick, Facebook, you know, they're all immune to what the creator does. So I don't know. Like I said, it's something that you gotta, if you're gonna follow these people, at least realize when they're stepping over the line. You know, I'm not saying get on X or anything else like that and call them out, but you know, use your own due diligence and understand it's like, okay, that's wrong. You know the difference between right and wrong. We learned that at a young age. You know, when your mom tells you you do something wrong or you do something right, you know, we learned that at a young age. So you can't say that you didn't know that was wrong when you know it was wrong. If it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. Plain and simple. But I'm going to shut up today. This was just like a little brief, I guess not brief, but I see this shit happening on a daily basis and it just irritates the hell out of me. And I want to see these platforms strive or thrive. I want to see these content creators strive for better content, actually make content, not stupid shit, like the Hunger Games that Numbnuts did. I don't remember what his name is now. Ice Poseidon, you know, uh, it's a good concept, but the way it was broke down, it wasn't made. It was basically made just to make fun of people. Is all it was. You got to do something realistic. Do something. I don't know. But like I said, negativity, man. Negativity is where it's at. The more negative, I mean, like you see it every day. The more negative a streamer is, the more people flock to it. But when they start breaking that fine line of going into negativity to hate, that's where you start seeing a lot of people back away. And I'm glad to see that there are a lot of people. I mean, like I said, looking at X. I mean, come on, people. You don't fucking mock any country's devastation. I mean, we don't mock what happened over there to October 7th. We don't mock all that crap that happens, but it seems to be like the other side mocks our catastrophes like 9/11 and stuff like that. Why? I don't get it. Y'all just need to quit, plain and simple. Plain and simple. I think all these people need to have their revenue streams stripped. They need to go back flipping burgers at McDonald's, and they need a reality check. So keep banning these people is what I'm saying. Keep banning these people off the platforms. And I mean, I'm not just talking about streamers. I'm talking about all these jackasses that are out here, like on X and stuff like that. If you're crossing that fine line from negativity to hate, once you hit that hate, that should be it. I mean, the algorithms should be strong enough now that as soon as you hit hate and you start, like this whole thing with 9/11 from Frogan, that should be a ban from Twitter too. I mean, that's not free speech, dude. Y'all don't know what free speech is. That is not free speech. Saying whatever comes out of your head into your mouth is not always free speech. Sorry. You might think it is, but it's not. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, till next time. Like I said, my name's Rebel. I'm glad you guys stopped in. I hope if you guys like this, make sure you do whatever you need to do. If you're listening to us on Spotify, leave me a comment or something, hit the follow, download, whatever. Help me I want to be the next big streamer. But anyways, we'll talk to you guys later. Stay tuned for the next one. It's coming up soon.
You have been listening to The Rebel Lawson Show. Stay tuned. We will be going live on Station Head and Rumble very soon with some behind the scenes and live chat. Till then, be sure to follow Rebel on X at Nation Underground. And remember to always take the blinders off and look at the whole story before making an informed decision. Thank you for listening.